Welcome back to the show. My name is Chad. My guest today, um, first, I first talked to him 30 years ago when his first book, Heroes, Villains, and Healing came out, and now he's come out with another uh, book. And the first one focused on characters from the DC universe, and this one right here focused on the Marvel. So let's bring in uh, Kenneth Rogers Jr. and find out what he's been up to in the 3 years and find out about his new book. How's it going, Kenneth? It's been a while.
It has. Time flies when you're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yes, or slows down really a lot, and then you just lose track of time.
True.
So, how have you been?
Pretty good. I mean, surviving, writing a lot, teaching a lot, just, making it from day to day.
So, before we get started talking about the book, tell us about your history with comic books itself.
So as a kid, I was not really a comic book nerd. Uh, it wasn't until I became an adult that I fully immersed myself in my nerddom, which I embrace. But I did is cartoons with Spider-Man and X-Men. X-Men 97 just came out, which was like a reliving of nostalgia. So I like watched all the movies, saw the shows, knew all about all the different characters, and I wanted to be like I wanted to be considered like a smart kid. I didn't want to be seen as like a I don't know, someone
You-
who wasn't intelligent. So I got like the big thick books that they had back in the day, like the Nightfall book when it first came out for Batman. I remember those X-Men saga books, those thick ones. But then when I got older, I was like, you know what? Like I need to start doing some actual research on these characters that I love so much because there's a lot more in the comics than it's actually in film or media.
All right. So, kind of tell us about you, your previous book and this book, and kind of how why you decided to write them and bring this to the public.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I started the first edition, Heroes, Villains, and Healing, the DC edition. I wrote that one a while ago because I really wanted to help other male survivors of childhood sexual abuse and assault understand and move through their journey of healing using heroes that they really loved and understood. So I wrote that one and it was great. And I continued to move along in the DC universe and produce other works like How to Slow Your Inner Flash, How to Unite Your Inner Lanterns, and really looking at all those different major powerhouse superheroes in the DC universe to give other options because some people may identify with Superman, with Batman. And throughout all that time, I've been really almost doing the research needed to write a good Marvel edition of Heroes, Villains, and Healing. I just didn't want to throw something out there that didn't have the proper um, research behind it and
Mhm.
proper understanding of those different heroes within the Marvel universe and how they apply to different cognitive behavior therapies and different coping mechanisms in a coherent and like really good and well done way.
Yeah, and I remember when we talked 3 years ago that you were kind of looking on doing those ones in the DC characters with the other, based on the other characters. So walk us through, this book, the other books, and what you are have to tell people.
Yeah. So the DC books, like as your viewers probably already know, like the DC universe is like so very much fragmented. Like they continue to reboot and re-up and provide the new origins of all these different heroes. And it can and I wanted my books to almost mirror whatever was happening in those different universes as well. So whether that be how to master your inner Superman, how to save your inner Wonder Woman, any of those, it's almost like it was a re-origin or re-upping of those different heroes. But for this Marvel edition, like Marvel, it just keeps going. It doesn't provide like a new, like, oh, we're going to rebrand this in a different way and provide a new origin and backtrack. And what and that's what made it really difficult to research, but also really cool because you have like 75, 80 years of history that you have to go back and know the full origins of. So that's what I really did with this Heroes and Villains book, Heroes, Villains, and Healing. It really sort of it's continuous. So it follows along the lines of Joseph Campbell's Hero of a Thousand Faces, and it follows the hero's journey. But instead of the hero's journey, I apply it to the survivor's journey and moving through those different stages and looking at the healing process as like a cyclical process that you revisit different phases, different steps along the way. And as you're moving through those different areas, you understand it through different heroes and through different villains and how they interact with their surroundings. So whether that be understanding villains using James Jonah Jameson and his creation of the Lizard or any of those. So it's much more cyclical in that sense.
Hmm. Now, yeah, as you kind of started, what heroes and villains do you use in the book to kind of, and what are you trying to say by using, their stories to, you know, tell yours?
Yeah. So there's like a huge swath. There's like so many different ones, and I wanted to give people those major heroes that they loved, but also some that were sort of nuanced, and like some of those stories that they may not have fully understood. So of course there's Spider-Man, but also looking at maybe Harry Osborn's relationship with his father in order to understand like the idea of generational trauma, also looking at, let's say, Wolverine and memory and the fact that he can't remember certain parts of his past, being Weapon X, Wolverine, his time in the X-Men, and really understanding how remembering has plays a major part in a survivor and how they interact and move through the universe. And then some characters like Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom and how they teamed up in order to save Doctor Doom's mother from hell, and how that growth and that understanding of both worlds, whether that be the world of the survivor, whether that be the world of the of the natural world that we live in, and how it really becomes like a master of two worlds in order to navigate both of them. And that's really what it takes to really like move through the healing process, understanding how to navigate both those worlds in the same way Dr. Doom does, but while also looking to help from those that we may not see as being worthy of our help, like with Doctor Strange. So it really goes through a huge swath of different heroes and villains, and really allows the reader to really understand their healing journey, not just through one hero, but like through a whole huge bunch.
And I noticed that maybe it was, there was just, you use a nice, swath of characters, in the book. But was there anything that looking, I don't see, and maybe I missed it, but the X-Men, was there something that, you'd like to do eventually with the X-Men?
I would love to, uh, but like it's so dense, like there's so many different branches of the X-Men, and I didn't want to, let's say, again, I don't want to do it wrong, and I
Right.
want to be able to have that knowledge that I need in order to fully understand the X-Men and like do it justice. I know like the I consider the basics of
Hmm.
the X-Men. But for like the readers, like the hardcore X-Men fans, it was like, oh, you should have included Cable. Where's the stuff from X Factor? What about Mystique and like all those different nuances? So like I would love to do more with like some of the like hardcore stuff with X-Men or Fantastic Four. And that would be really great with understanding internal family systems therapy and how
Hmm.
the different parts of ourselves are really trying to protect the self and make sure that we are safe. Like all those different parts interact with one another. I would love to be able to do that, and like
Hmm.
that could possibly be a future project that I'm working on.
So, including, the research, which, it probably, probably sucked to have to read a lot of comic books to, do the research. But how long did it take, from the time that from research to the finished product here?
Uh, so probably a good 3 to 5 years
Hmm.
just of like researching and reading and uh, just like you know how you start to read a certain series and then they reference some other comic or something that happened in the past and then you're like, oh crap, that's a whole different branch that I didn't even read and go back and look at. So I would have to go back and do that while on top of writing, continuing to write about like the DC characters that I was already focused in on. So it took 3 to 5 years, just like off and on, just reading as I had time.
So, what of the examples that you provide in the book, which one stands out the most for you, or do you find is the most helpful in getting the message across that you wanted to get across for that section?
Um, so I really liked doing the readings for um the Daredevil yellow, the Spider-Man blue, the Captain America white. You know those series, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
like those were so much fun and packed with so much information. I really enjoyed sitting down and really dissecting those different characters, especially Spider-Man blue and Daredevil yellow, um, because especially Spider-Man Blue, like looking at the idea of like that trauma and applying it and moving forward, but also giving homage to those memories that we had in the past and not just completely pushing them away, but making sure
Mhm.
that we honor them. And looking at that through the lens of Peter Parker and his relationship with Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy and how all that really plays a part into how he tries to maintain that balance. And that's a key thing in like any survivor story, and that's the key thing that I really want many survivors to understand is like trying to find that balance. And that's where the book really ends off on. It's like finding the the master of two worlds, being able to find that balance between uh healed or healing and being a survivor and like giving homage to the past and just maintaining that equilibrium, which is very difficult to do.
Now, and I don't know if I'm phrasing this right, but how were there some situations where you were trying for the message you wanted to say, and finding an example of that in the Marvel universe? Was there something like that where you maybe felt like you were being honest to the material that were the source material that you were using, but maybe kind of, I don't say stretching things to Yeah, yeah, you know what I'm saying?
I think so. Like, was I was there any part where I was like searching desperately for something to try and get a square peg in a round hole?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Not very good with words sometimes.
no, it's cool. No, it's fine. Um, Actually, it was more difficult, like to throw some things out, because there was so much good information, and since I published Heroes, Villains, and Healing, the DC edition, and like now, I just hadn't been like reading about comics, but my whole understanding of psychology and different therapies and different processes of healing had like completely expanded. So it was actually a lot easier this time around to make sure I could like find those different things that matched up with it. The
Hmm.
only major thing that my editor really had a problem with was the fact that she didn't really understand, like, hey, you're using Spider-Man again, but I would say I'm not really using Spider-Man. I'm more using the Vermin saga, and it's looking at vermin and that idea of childhood sexual abuse and assault. Yes, it's in the Spider-Man universe and like the Spider-Verse and all that, but it's looking at a specific characters that deal with this. So while she was like, you need more swath, more bigger, I
Hmm.
was saying, no, I'm going to do what I know fits rather than trying to placate to an audience that probably doesn't really exist.
Hmm. Okay. So when you were, researching and writing the book, did you learn something new about yourself or about, that would help you, in your continued, you know, maybe I hope the right word is recovery or dealing with, you know, your personal situation that, you experience.
I mean, these projects always reveal something very like insightful about like me or my journey. So this one, like each one gets harder, but not in the sense of doing the research. Each one gets harder. Well, no, it gets harder in the sense of doing the research, but not really in the sense of understanding myself as much. This one didn't really come with any major surprises. This one actually what was pretty smooth going. Now the projects I'm working on right now, these are actually like what I'm writing right now, what I'm working on, it's actually stirring up some things in me, and it's this one is going to be difficult to write and put down on paper. It's really looking at being the villain, and I've always sort of focused on the hero aspect, but the things I'm focusing in on now is like the idea of the other side of humanity and like the idea of being a villain even though you may not see yourself as a villain, and then unfortunately possibly viewing myself as a villain. So
Yeah.
it's stirring up some things.
And yeah, I don't want you to divulge anything like really personal, but when
Oh, I can't hear you. I
can
got
you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so when you're writing this and it starts bringing up your personal experience. Do you have a way that you can kind of step back or kind of you know do you have to take a break from it or you- how do you what in general terms what I guess what are your coping mechanisms if that's a fair question or to ask.
Oh yeah. So like I've been doing this for a while. Like for the most part, I go deeper into it when I know like I'm hitting a nerve. I know I shouldn't, but I actually do the opposite of what I tell people to do. I don't necessarily slow down, because rather, like, I've been ruminating over like the things that I'm writing down for like maybe a month or 2 months already, and I just can't figure it out. Like, my mind's been trying to like digest some tidbit that's just been in my brain, and then like something clicks, and then that's when I start to write, and then that's when I'm starting to like dig and hit pay dirt. It can be stressful, it can be bad, but mostly what, like, for me, the difficult part is finishing a major project. So after I finish like anything big, it takes me about a week to recover. I get like pretty bad depression, where I can't really function as well. So when I'm working, like, I'm fine, but it's after I stop and I finish a major project that it really gets kind of difficult for me.
And just looking through the book, I see that, there are some activities that, somebody reading the book could do. You want to kind of talk about, those and how you kind of develop those?
Yeah, so with the whole How to Heal Your Inner Superhero series, with all the way from Batman to Superman to Wonder Woman to Green Lantern to Flash. Like, I've been accumulating different writing techniques over time, and this is almost like the culmination of everything that I've really been working on and learning. Looking at the Sud scale, which is looking at like identifying your emotions and using um, specific characters or specific events to really figure out how that goes. I talked about that in Green Lantern, and in this one,
I
I
was going to say you use the Hulk.
yeah, yeah. So like looking at that and like those different emotions, and like these writing exercises have really been like building over time. So I don't know, like like this book has really been like, I don't know, it's been like a huge process since I wrote the original Heroes, Villains, and Healing. Just keep reading, keep writing, and like just putting all that together.
So, looking at the big picture, from the first book to this one, what have you learned as a writer about yourself? Um, have you do you kind of go through the first book and say, oh, I maybe wish I'd approached it different, or a new edition.
When I go back and I look, I'm always really surprised, like, oh crap, I actually am somewhat of a decent writer. Like, I'm always surprised, like, I wrote that, or that came from me. Um I have sort of a problem with my memory and like figuring things out and like understanding, like remembering what I've done. So going back and re-looking at what I've already written and done, it's almost like reawakening, like, oh yeah, like that, I need to remember to do those things. I need to remember to ground myself. I need to remember to make sure I am identifying my emotions. I'm meditating. And so each project, and then me going back and looking at it, it really helps me to remember everything I've learned over time. It's really helpful.
So as we kind of start wrapping up here, is there anything else that about the book, or that maybe you want people to know about it, or what? I guess what do you hope people who read the book or use the book, what do you hope they take away from you know
I mean, it's the same thing I always hope for them to take away from it. Like, this is really an opportunity for them to to begin their journey, or like to continue on their journey. I just want them to have a resource that was done properly and helpful in them understanding of themselves, but also having a crap ton of fun. like looking at these comics and being like, man, that's some deep crap. I want to go back and I want to fully explore like this particular this issue. Like get DC Infinite and Marvel Unlimited and like get those two apps and like go and read those comics and be like, wow, that's really cool. And like just be more complete, be more whole. That's what I really want from this book, just to help as much as possible.
Um, okay, well, where can people find you? Um, yeah, are you on social media? Where and how can they get a hold of this book or your other books if they're interested?
Absolutely. I am on all socials of the medias, the Tiki Talks, the Twitter slash X's. Pretty much put in Kenneth Rogers Jr. You'll be able to find me, not Kenny Rogers, because that is an old white country singer that no longer exists. So Kenneth Rogers Jr. And wherever you get your books, like they're available Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million. If you are still able to go to a brick and mortar bookshop, it's probably there as well. Hopefully, if not, then you can order it, and then
Mhm.
um, yeah, it's available wherever. You can always go to my website as well, lostimaginations.com.
And are kind of totally off the book and stuff, but are you currently reading or watching anything that you're really that you're going for maybe for pleasure that you're enjoying?
I am. So I've been reading Daredevil. I just got to the Frank Miller run. I'm on
There's
171.
like five books all in itself.
Yeah, I know. So I'm currently doing Daredevil. I am King's run of Wonder Woman right now is killing
Okay,
it.
yeah.
I'm really digging that. Uh, yeah, like the whole idea of like all that, like it's really cool. Of course, I got the Superman looking at Brainiac taking over. Uh, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with Brain. The Flash is messing me up, man. Like I don't know. It's it's too much chaos. I need more order. But
A Spurrier is hard to follow sometimes.
yeah, and I got to read the Flash annual. I haven't gotten to that one yet, but maybe that'll clear some things up.
Mhm.
But other than that, like I'm piecemealing some different things. I'm doing some different reading for um, like teaching. So looking at helping out my boys of color understand their place in the world and really tackling the idea of social and racial identity.
Awesome. And are you? And I know you're. Are you still in Baltimore?
Yes, still in Baltimore,
Okay.
still here.
Um, have you any plans to go to the show this year, or have you been to a comic convention since we last chatted? Because I know, if I believe that you were kind of that's something you really wanted to do, but the whole pandemic thing. And,
Yeah. Uh, I'm not sure if I'm going this year. I got to see what dates are in line. So since I don't know, since we last talked, I've been invited to talk at different conferences, like child sexual assault and abuse awareness and symposiums. Not as much not as many Comic Cons or like
Mhm.
Awesome Con or anything, but
Sure.
like some major conferences. But I put in a bid for like a proposal for New York Comic Con, so we'll see. And then of course we got the
Well,
one.
let me know and we can hang out in person because I plan on being there. I already have my
Awesome.
press pass, so well, we
Ooh,
can
look at you.
meet in person, and it won't be 3 years later.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. I love it.
And I'll, if you do have the panel, I will definitely make an effort to cover it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, it was a pleasure catching up with you after 3 years, and I'm glad we were able to finally connect and get this done. And again, I think you're doing great work, and I think it's something that's definitely needed to help. I'm sure, I know, I should say, I know that there's somebody out there that will benefit from the books you've written and the way you approach things that will help them either begin their journey or continue their journey um, as a survivor.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, again, let's anytime you have anything new that you'd like to talk about, or if you just want to chat comics, then let me know and we'll make it work. And it won't be 3 years.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and hopefully I'll see you at New York Comic Con.
Yeah, definitely. We'll keep in touch, and I appreciate the chance to chat with you, and it's always great catching up with you. So I wish you the best for the book. This is the book. I'll add links to this and your other books in the show notes. And yeah, it was great catching up, and we'll be in touch.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chad.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.